It was a truly ugly game, but Justin Herbert and Asante Samuel Jr. helped the Chargers pull out a late win over the Raiders.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 8 seasons, but this is our 6th year as a host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys, as always, for making this your first listen, especially on these post-game shows late at night. And to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcasts from. What a game. Another ugly performance by the Chargers where they squeak by with a victory. So we're going to talk about that. Justin Herbert with such a clutch throw at the end of this game after getting injured. Asante Samuel Jr. bailing this team out in the red zone with a great interception, but not trying to get more yardage out of it. But also Khalil Mack, historic 6 sacks in this game. And then we'll talk about the Chargers offense totally disappearing in the second half because it was ugly for a big portion of it. But this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. David, we wanted the Chargers to go out and bury the Raiders. I mean, we didn't know on our last show that was on Thursday night what it was going to look like, what this team was going to look like, how many players were going to be missing. That was, pre-Corey Linsley. All of these things that ended up coming up after that were, really changed the complexion of this game. But when it came down to it, late in the game, the Chargers had to put the game away and not give it back to the Raiders. And Justin Herbert, seals this game with a 51-yard pass to Joshua Palmer, an absolute seed. The offensive line was banged up. He didn't have a lot of time at all in the second half, but he still found a way to make that clutch play. And most importantly, get the Chargers to 2-2 at the bye week, which is absolutely crucial.
Yes, you get a reset. You get a big win in the AFC West, which is huge. It's fantastic for the Chargers to keep pace. And, that's what it took. It took a Justin Herbert type of Herculean type of effort for him to show everybody who he is, how tough he is, and in the big moments when you got to have it. Like Brandon Staley likes to say, Justin Herbert had it. He was at his best. He delivered a fantastic throw when Max Crosby and that Raiders defense was really all over him. I mean, they were all over him for a couple of different quarters, but he did not allow that to deter him. He made that big throw. Josh Palmer makes that big catch and seals the victory for the Chargers.
Yeah, and most importantly, the Chargers get the win, right? Like, not every win is equal. Like, no. You want to throttle that team. You want to be able to put them away. You want to leave no doubt, and you weren't able to do it, right? You did finish the game. You went out there. I do give credit to the Chargers for letting Justin Herbert air it out on a 3rd and 10. I think most teams are probably running the football there, making it as hard as possible and just punting it away. But with the way J.K. Scott had been punting, not very far, right? Wasn't really flipping the field very much. I like that they let him air it out there, and now the Chargers get this bye week. And at the beginning of the season, I was thinking, okay, I do not want a week 5 bye week because you want to wait till later on in the season, get healthier going down the backstretch. You don't want it early, and now you're going to have to go play 13 consecutive games coming up after this. But this bye week is going to be huge because the Chargers were missing so many players in this game. Derwin James, Austin Eckler, Joey Bosa, just to name a few of them, David. And they really need this time to get back together as a team. This was huge. And the other part of it is you have Dallas and Kansas City coming up. We're going to learn a lot more about this team during those 2 games. But even if it's ugly, even if it's against a rookie quarterback, you had to get to this spot 2-2 to get healthy because that's going to be huge. Yeah,
well, if you don't get to 2-2, getting healthy isn't even that important. It's not as important. So now that you're able to reset, you're back at ground zero. You're able to kind of really jump off from this point into the rest of your season, knowing that you're back in the thick of it. You got a legitimate chance now. And yes, this bye week before the season started, I hated it. I didn't want anything to do with the week 5 bye. I thought it was way too early, but you never know how the season is going to unfold. You never know what the needs of the team are going to be. Right now, this bye week, I don't think it could be at any better time, especially with the injury to Justin Herbert. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, this team right now desperately needs to get healthy because those next opponents coming up, they're some of the better teams in the NFL, and the Chargers absolutely need to be at their best and their healthiest if they're wanting to compete in order to win.
Yeah, and you can't talk about this game and Justin Herbert even making that throw without the guy who got him the ball back in that situation, Asante Samuel Jr. 2 minutes, 38 seconds left in this game on 1st and goal with the Raiders seemingly breathing down their neck and about to tie the game, right? Asante Samuel Jr. picks off Aiden O'Connell, a great read on it, totally read the kind of pick route that Devontae Adams was trying to do to get in front of him to stop him from, being able to get in front of Jacoby Myers for that play. A great read by him. He gets the interception. He thought Brandon Staley was telling him to go down. Brandon Staley was saying he's not telling him to get down. Maybe could have had a pick 6, but that was gigantic, David. Back-to-back weeks, the Chargers get a desperate stop in the red zone when they absolutely need it.
I mean, yeah, scary situation there, obviously, when you're in that situation. I mean, you have to do anything you can to prevent them from getting into the end zone. But Asante Samuel Jr. does what he does best. He lets his instincts take over. He had a really good understanding of what he felt like the offense was trying to do, and he let those instincts take over. He took a chance. It paid off in a big, big way. The Chargers keep the Raiders out of the end zone, and they get the ball back to Justin Herbert, which is what they absolutely desperately needed, especially in that moment, because, my goodness, if they don't get that one, you already have a horrible feeling. You already had the momentum that was already kind of getting sucked out of the building and going over to the other sideline. Yeah. If that happened, I mean, I would have probably would have saw the Chargers lose that football game. I would have expected them to lose that game if they did not get that stop. That's how monumental that stop was.
Yeah, no, I mean, an ugly win doesn't feel great. Come from behind win from a rookie quarterback against the Raiders, who have been a mess, it feels terrible, right? So, you avoided disaster, and the reason they were in that spot to begin with was partially at least because Brandon Staley made another decision to go for it on 4th and 1, up by 7, 3 minutes, 34 seconds left in the fourth quarter on their own 34-yard line. It's funny, David, last week we wanted the quarterback sneak. This week, they end up going quarterback sneak and not getting it. What did you think about the decision? Analytically, it says, hey, that's still the right call, even though it's much closer than it was last week, where it was a much more obvious go for it. You're putting the ball in Justin Herbert's hands, but I don't know, man. It still felt like I would have probably punted it there. I mean, maybe I'm a coward. I don't know. I don't even mind necessarily that Brandon Staley decided to go for it there, but I feel like after you saw those two quarterback sneaks not fail on the goal line, but how tough it was, how much that offensive line without Corey Linsley got stood up on those first two attempts, I didn't like it, man. I mean, I thought that was a huge call for him. I don't know. It's a tough call.
Yeah, honestly, Daniel, I think this is just who the Chargers are. I think this is the identity of the football team. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to go for it, and they're going to let the chips fall where they may. They're going to live with it, or they're going to die with it, but that's who they are now. I think that's just part of the identity of the football team. So these are the decisions that you're going to make. It's very uncomfortable, I mean, especially as a fan and an analyst, to kind of know where to go, but the Chargers are going to be aggressive. They're going to give it to Justin Herbert. They're going to let him go out there and make a play or not make a play, but they trust him to go out there and do that. Unfortunately,
so you like the
it
call,
didn't work out. But I like the call because I think that's just who the Chargers are. That is their identity.
Do you like the quarterback sneak?
I do like to sneak. I mean, he's 6'6". I mean, not really in that situation just because of the hand injury, but I mean, hey, 6'6", 250 pounds. I mean, you should be able to get that in that situation. Maybe more tush push type of play there.
I mean, they tried it. They tried pushing him. He just didn't go anywhere. I mean, I think you hope that your offensive line is going to be able to get you a yard in that situation. Yeah. They should be able to get you a yard in that situation. They got no push up front, right? It was nothing. They got nothing out of it. I mean, I get it. I would rather err on the side of being more aggressive. I'd err on the side of putting the ball in Justin Herbert's hands. But when everyone thinks you're going to run there, I'm totally okay. Throw the ball, right? Yeah. Like, let him throw the ball to Keenan Allen. Go out with your two best players. You know, easy to say in hindsight, but with the way those first two quarterback sneaks went and the lack of movement they got on those on the goal line, I didn't love it. I wanted it last week. I got it this week. It didn't work out, but I think after you saw kind of how it went the first couple of times, I probably would have just let him throw the ball there. I mean, it was the only snap he took under center, but there's so much more to get into in this game. Was the defense good? That's a good question. We're going to talk about that, as well as Khalil Mack, the man. 6 sacks, most in Chargers franchise history. We have to get into coming up right after this. First, though, I need to tell you guys about LinkedIn Jobs, because these days every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. They make it super easy to create a free job post, and you can do it in no time at all. And I thought the Chargers might be putting a job post out there for a new head coach. Had things gone differently in the fourth quarter, and you're going into the bye week at 1-3, losing to Aiden O'Connell and a mess of a Raiders team. But what makes LinkedIn so good is they have simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can find quickly who you need to prioritize and who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster, so post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. David, the Chargers defense, I think, had some moments you would want back in the second half, even though, I mean, I think I feel for them because of how much they were on the field, and we'll talk about just the defensive performance overall, but you can't start that conversation without starting with Khalil Mack. A franchise single-game record, 6 sacks in this game, and a franchise that has really, really good pass rushers in its past, like, you know, Joey Bosa and Sean Merriman, to name a couple. David, you don't see a performance like that very often. Khalil Mack had 0 sacks going into this game in 3 games, and he absolutely explodes versus his former team. You love to see it, especially against the black and silver.
Return of the Mac. I love it, man.
I just realized I'm wearing Raiders colors. That's terrible.
Yeah, it is.
On my part.
We'll give you a pass. We'll give you a pass for that. Khalil Mack was absolutely incredible in this football game. I mean, I put it out on Twitter there. It was the best pass rushing performance I have ever seen in my life. I mean, I've watched a lot of football over the last 25 plus years, but that was an absolutely Herculean effort. He would not be denied. It was a trademark Khalil Mack performance where he was running over tackles. He was doing games with Tillery, who was such a fantastic part of this performance as well. But Khalil Mack, I mean, 0 sacks heading into this game, and he gets almost an entire season's worth of sacks in one game. I mean, wow. 6 sacks, 4 QB hits, 5 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. Khalil Mack was an animal. This was a Hall of Fame performance by Khalil Mack, and you love to see it. I mean, he absolutely was a little bit quiet to start the year, but man, did he burst onto the scene in a major, massive way.
Yeah, this was a defensive player of the year type of performance, right?
It was.
The best player in the league type of performance. It was insane. And yeah, I don't want the 5 tackles for loss to go without re-mentioning again either, right? Because, like, he was fantastic against the run. But to sack a quarterback 6 times, to force 2 fumbles, it was just insane, man. That's why I was going crazy when I saw him dropping into coverage later on this game. I'm like, the dude has 5 sacks. The dude has 6 sacks. Send him out
after the quarterback.
Yeah, man. I mean, there was definitely some head-scratching moments right there. But I think we have to give the defense credit for this. I mean, they allowed 17 points, which obviously is the least amount of points they've started all season. I mean, I think Aiden O'Connell probably played just as well as, like, Ryan Tannehill does most weeks. I don't know. Even against a rookie, I mean, I think there was positives to take away from it. I mean, good against the run again, right? I think a big part of it, too, is who you were missing. Right, you were missing Derwin James and Joey Bosa in this game, and Alohi Gilman down, and JT Woods.
And JT Woods,
3 safeties. Dean Marlowe, I thought, had some great moments, man.
He played a heck of a game, man. I mean, you didn't even notice those safeties in there. I mean, they did their job. I mean, when Brandon Staley said that they were going to be ready to play, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. They were ready to play. They went out there, and they did not skip a beat. They went out there, did their jobs. I think Dean Marlowe played a great game. I think he was a very strong tackler in the open field. I mean, I was impressed. I was impressed by the performance.
I think he definitely, even, JT Woods we'll probably talk about him more tomorrow and just why he's out, because there's kind of a shroud of mystery around that as well, with a condition kind of like Corey Linsley, where it's kind of hard to put a finger on when he's going to come back. But 7 sacks, you forced 3 turnovers. And I think the reason I'm giving them somewhat of a pass, I mean, they gave up 10 points in the second half. It's not like they gave up 20 points or 20 straight points or anything. You still came away at the end of it. You held them to 1 of 10 on third down.
1 of 11. 1 of 11.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is the one conversion was a 3rd and 18 check down to Josh Jacobs that had,
I think that was after Khalil Mack's 6th sack of the day.
It was. Yeah, it was after the 5th. No, it was after the 5th sack, because I remember I posted, that's being a Charger fan encapsulated right there. You're stoked. You get another sack. Khalil Mack has 5 freaking sacks in this game, and then immediately
you give up a Ray Rice, hey diddle diddle all the way up the middle.
Oh my God,
play.
it was crazy. I mean, it's crazy too that Khalil Mack, according to ESPN, 9 of his 14 sacks as a Charger have been against the Raiders.
Against the Raiders.
I think there's a little bit of
he gets up for these games? Oh, you 100%. Better believe it.
I thought the other big thing, though, David, was really limiting the explosive plays. I mean, that's something they haven't been able to do all season. And every time Aiden O'Connell just chucked a ball up deep, I was thinking, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah.
And every time there was multiple defenders around that ball. Yeah. That was a stark difference than what we saw in the first couple of games of the season.
Daniel, the Chargers did not allow a 30-plus yard reception at any point in this football game. Can you please tell me the last time that occurred?
Not this season.
I'm going to wait. I don't even remember. It's been a
season.
long time. So hats off.
Probably
to the
had
Chargers
to go back to
defense
that
for that
Colts game, maybe that Rams game late last year. But I mean, it was noticeable, right? You can't have that. The explosive plays absolutely killed them, and somehow without your 2 starting safeties, the explosive plays totally disappeared. You're going against a rookie quarterback, but Devontae Adams had a pretty pedestrian game by his standards. You didn't let him absolutely torch you like you did Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I'll live with 8 catches for 75 yards. I'll live with that all day.
Yeah, I mean, the dude had over 300 yards in 2 games against the Chargers last year. So, you'll absolutely take that. I thought it was better, The Raiders running backs averaged 3.3 yards per carry. Thought the run defense, outside of a small margin, a small part of the second half, but this is what people have to understand, too. In the second half, the Raiders' offense had the ball for over 20 minutes, and a lot of that had to do with the offensive ineptitude shown by the Chargers. Because you think about that, the last 2 minutes was just the Chargers kneeling it out. So their offense had basically 7 minutes on the field in the entire second half before they ended up getting that final nail in the coffin, right? Which is crazy. But, David, we have to talk about the cheap shot. Jerry Tillery. Man, I to see that was insane, but if anyone didn't see it, which would be surprising, former Charger Jerry Tillery took a very late shot on Justin Herbert when he was well out of bounds in the first half of this game. Ended up getting ejected from this game. David, it's crazy because we saw him do that in the Chargers uniform. So many dumb penalties that ended up leading to first downs by the other team. And to see him do that to Justin Herbert, who's actually his friend, was a wild scene. But the way the Chargers reacted around it, I think made it a little better.
For a guy who went to Notre Dame, who is clearly a very intelligent person,
he had some
to
dirty
make
plays there,
so
too.
many dumb, boneheaded decisions and mistakes on the football field is mind-boggling to me. I don't understand it. Jerry, are you serious? That was clearly late. That was a dirty move. That was a dirty tackle. There's no room for that in the NFL. None. And that's why every single defensive player that you talked to or that the media talked to after this game said it was a BS move that should have never happened. That was ugly football. There's absolutely no room for it. You deserve to get ejected. You're a bad football player. You're a dirty football player. You got to cut that out. There's no room for that in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it was as dirty as it gets. It was as obvious as it gets, right? Hit him high.
Even Max Crosby was like, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah. No, Max Crosby immediately threw up his hands. But this was the interesting thing. Kyle Van Noy was asked about it on Twitter, whether he saw the hit. And he said, Yeah, if only you knew behind the scenes with Jerry, I'm shocked hands weren't thrown, which I'm pretty sure Anthony Lamondo, I hope I'm not snitching him out, was definitely in there maybe throwing some hands.
I mean, I saw Sebastian Joseph did get a couple licks in there.
Oh, yeah.
I love that response, man. That pumps you up for real.
Totally.
I mean, I love that my team went out there and Scott Matlock was right there defending his quarterback as well. But yeah,
Brandon
you love
Staley
that. That's
like
a
he wanted to
galvanizing
fist
type
fight
of
him.
moment, Dan. I mean, that's the type of moment that can inspire you to kind of rally around your guys and be there. I mean, and I hope that it does.
Yeah, and that lasted a little while, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they definitely fed off of that. You know, they capitalized on on that drive when scored points. But, like, it's hard. You have to remember, Jerry Tillery was just flat out released in the middle of last season when it didn't save the Chargers any money. The only thing it saved them was a roster spot. There are things that are going to come out about what happened there that we don't know yet that I can't wait to hear about because that's an ugly situation if you're the golden boy that's getting released like that. I mean, Jerry Tillery obviously not a favorite in the Chargers locker room with the way things ended last year and going to be, number one on the wanted poster. I mean, the second time these two teams play, I have a feeling that man is going to get his head taken off by a couple of Chargers offensive linemen because you don't do that to the other team's quarterback, to one of your friends, right? But dirty hit, Jerry Tillery. But yeah, I mean, them coming together in that moment, it was awesome, man. It's goosebump stuff. You love to see how much this team cares about Justin Herbert and how important they know he is to this team by going and immediately defending their guy. Not one or two guys, right? The entire roster was right there on the sideline trying to get a piece of Jerry Tillery, and I freaking loved it. I love that it was Jerry Tillery because of all the frustration he gave Chargers fans when he was on the Chargers. But to go do that, man, absolutely awesome by this Chargers team rallying around their quarterback. But what wasn't awesome is the Chargers offense totally disappearing. We're going to talk about what we think about Justin Herbert's injury because, man, when I thought Easton Stick was going to come in, it was a very, very scary moment. So we're going to talk about what went wrong offensively in Justin Herbert's hand and how much we're worried about it coming up after this. First, though, I do need to tell you guys about the number one sportsbook in America, and of course, I'm talking about FanDuel because you guys need to snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. I mean, there's no downside to that, David. You go bet. If you lose, you can still win $200 in bonus bets. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action right now. I would say, hey, if you're going to bet on the Chargers, be careful. But there's nothing bad about a little emotional hedge, right? We've all made these emotional hedges before. But what I love and what I'm always looking for are the fun things that they have going on at FanDuel. They always have so many good promotions going on. You can bet on spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. I'm always going player props during these games. Probably a lot of weird ones you could have hit on in this game for sure. But all you guys have to do to get in on the action is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season in style. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. David, there was a lot of frustration offensively for the Chargers. I mean, less than 9 minutes they possessed the ball in the second half. It was just brutal, man. They had a chance, the offense, to put this game away, and they weren't able to do it. And that's just, on today's show, thank you to all the everydayers that are out there. I also do want to tell you guys, if you guys want to get in on our new subtext, which is a personal SMS experience that you guys can have with us where you can message us and directly ask us questions whenever you want. I'm up till like 3 o'clock in the morning most days. You guys can do that. You can get a 14-day free trial on that. But the best part is easily just having the one-on-ones with you guys. I've loved everyone that we've had in there so far. Anytime we're going to get a guest on, we'll put it on there before it happens. Our in-game reactions were hilarious in there during the game today. Some things you can't put on Twitter always, you know what I mean? But if you guys want to join the subtext, we have a fun little thing going on over there, and you can hit up the link in the bio in the show notes right now, whether you're on YouTube or listening later on the podcast. But, David, the offense, man, 0 points in the second half. Let's start there. 0 points in the second half. That was a brutal showing by Kellen Moore's unit in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, this is how the drives went in the second half. Punt on 3 plays, interception, punt, and then turnover on downs. That was the extent of the Chargers' drives in the second half. They did not do anything. And yeah, there was pressure in Justin Herbert's face a lot of the times, and he was fantastic in the pocket, evading and doing everything he could to keep
running for
alive.
his life. Yeah,
running for his absolute life is probably a little bit more accurate here. And so, yeah, I mean, after a dominant first half where they got turnovers, turned those into touchdowns, and had a couple of good drives, it just all disappeared. I mean, the momentum was gone in the second half offensively. Thankfully, the Chargers defense stepped up to the plate and literally kept them in the ballgame.
Absolutely. I mean, they couldn't sustain a drive at all the entire second half, right? The receivers looked like they were having a hard time separating. The offensive line couldn't keep Justin Herbert clean and give him a clean pocket to throw from. And the running game disappeared. You know, I was hoping to see what this running game could do. It's going to look a lot better in the stats, right? Because they're going to rush for 150 yards. Darius Davis, shout out to that dude, right? 50-yard run in this game, which was awesome.
Man. He's amazing.
Yeah, and some of it had to do with Justin Herbert, but he didn't get hurt until 2 minutes and 11 seconds left in the third quarter. So the problems happened before that, but after that, they were definitely, spotlighted for sure. Like it was a really bad half by this Chargers offense. Like Kellen Moore not pushing the right buttons, the Chargers players not executing. But let's talk about Justin Herbert, David, because it's going to go down in the books as 13 for 24, 167 yards, 1 passing touchdown and 1 interception. But I did think what he did with his legs were really impressive. I think we see a little bit more. It's going to be interesting to see if he kind of throttles down a little bit because of the injury, but he didn't in this game, man. I mean, he was trying to run 4 first downs, even on that last drive before the 4th and 1 quarterback sneak. He almost picked it up with his legs on that. Has the 12-yard rushing touchdown in the first quarter, and also has the biggest throw of the game with that injured finger, which I think makes you feel a little bit better about it.
I mean, Justin Herbert, 2 rushing touchdowns, had Max Crosby on absolute skates. Made him look bad. Bad. Also, sorry about this one, but Isaac Rochelle, you got stiff-armed into oblivion. You got absolutely manhandled. He put you directly into the ground.
Yeah.
You're going to live in infamy on that play because Justin Herbert dominated you. But Justin Herbert's subtle movements in the pocket, his ability to escape and evade was on full display. And he was under constant pressure. He needed that. He had to do that to extend plays to keep the Chargers in this football game. And he showed his toughness. I mean, he obviously hurt that left hand very, very badly, but not for a single second did Justin Herbert anticipate him not being in this football game. That's just not who he is. He is a competitor. He is going to be on that field. You watched it last year.
That was great,
You have to absolutely cut this guy in half to prevent him from getting on that football field and being out there with his guys and trying to do everything to give his team every chance to win.
It was a gritty performance, man. I mean, the Chargers fans are lucky to have this dude, and he shows you every once in a while what he's willing to do to put this team on his back and go win a game, whether or not he's injured, right? But to come in the game and kind of grit it out the way he did, to be doing quarterback sneaks when you weren't even taking any other kind of snaps under center, right? To have the confidence in him that he'll be able to go do that. To be injured and then make that throw he did at the end of the game. I mean, the man has that dog in him. It's hard to argue that he doesn't, because it was just it's awesome to watch, man. Like, this man cares about football so much, and he really gritted this one out, and they had to have it, and he was out there. I'm not super concerned about it. If he can't take any snaps under center, like, that definitely impacts things for sure. I mean, he did on a quarterback sneak, and everything seemed fine there. I'm guessing it'll be a better situation after the bye week. It is his non-throwing hand. That's what's important here, right? And
yes, very important. Yeah.
Do not be mixing it up with Max freaking Crosby after an interception, Justin Herbert. That interception was bad too. I mean, have to.
And he had a couple. I mean, he probably threw 3 or 4 interceptable passes in this game, which
I remember
is in
3
stark
for
contrast.
Sure. 2 in the red zone. Yeah, before that first field goal that they kicked, that was not fun. But I mean, it just doesn't happen very often. When you see a bad throw like that, it kind of reminds you, like, oh my God, that was alien, right? That was totally different than what I'm used to seeing from this robot to just throw the ball up. I mean, if Josh Palmer holds on to a deep ball that he got right before that,
he had his hands on that
interception. It was a good play by the defensive back, but still, he ended up making up for it later on, obviously. But
he sure did.
I think, David, what you saw in this game is just how much this Chargers team missed Corey Linsley, missed Austin Eckler, and missed Mike Williams, and I think that's going to be a big part of this. Quentin Johnston only has 1 catch. Darius Davis steps up in a nice way.
It was a big one, but only 1 catch.
Yeah, but you saw that, and I think that's what I'm going to chalk a lot of the offensive ineptitude up to. That's something they have to get figured out, because this offense was really, really missing those dudes.
Yeah, they absolutely were. I mean, they're going to have to figure it out. Hopefully, they'll get Austin Eckler back after the bye. We'll see what's up with Jalen Guyton. We'll see if he's able to join this offense as well. And just Justin Herbert getting healed up and hopefully, being able to attack the rest of the season. But they do it with a big, big win.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're survived, right? I mean, I can't tell you that they're going to go into the bye week and fix everything, right? We just don't know. And they've been better after the bye, usually under Brandon Staley, but
Yeah.
there's a lot to work out, man. Kellen Moore has to be able to. It bothers me that we didn't see Quentin Johnston used more in the way that Quentin Johnston is used well, or like putting him in positions to succeed, right? Giving him wide receiver screens, giving him throws that are with
they got to
the
figure
running
that
start.
out.
They got to figure it out, and they'll have an extra week to do it because this week they couldn't get it done, and it showed itself in the second half. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Make sure you're back here tomorrow with our buy or sell, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. We'll talk a little bit more about Corey Linsley and if he could return this season at all. Kind of the cloud that's hanging over there, the JT Woods of it all, too. So much to get into with this team. Big bye week coming up for them to reset a little bit. But make sure you guys are following wherever you get your podcast from and also subscribing to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel. And if you guys want to, join the subtext. We got a little community going on over there. Very exciting. You can have one-on-one personal messages with us, which is really cool getting to know you guys a little bit more. But you can also find the show every day on our social media. Find me on Twitter at DanTalkSports and David Drogemeyer at Twitter at DroTalkSD, as well as the show's page at Locked On LAC. Find us on Instagram at Locked On Chargers and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Survived. That's what the Chargers did in this one. 2-2 at the bye week. We'll know a lot more about this team when they open up at Dallas in week 6, but a lot of things have to get figured out. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.